So the title of this video is probably confusing you. What does it mean that the left needs to be conservative? So what I mean by that is temperamentally conservative. So obviously we're not talking about politically. By definition, if somebody's conservative, they're not going to be on the left. What this means is conservative by nature. So think about the most stereotypical idea of a conservative, and also think about the most stereotypical idea of a leftist. So for the conservative, I mean, you can go in a few different directions. You could think like a fundamentalist Christian, you know, you could think of a Confederate flag waving bigot. You could think of an uber business-focused guy wearing a suit. But for the purposes of explaining this as clearly as possible, think of like a guy who used to be in the military, who's now, you know, a father, and he's got 2 kids, a wife, a white picket fence. He's a very stoic kind of guy. He's super Christian, and he is very orderly and rules-oriented. When I think of like the stereotype of a conservative, this is the kind of thing that comes to mind. A very by-the-book, down-the-line character who is very strict and stoic and cares about his family and provides for his family. But more importantly than anything, he's a disciplinarian, and he is obsessed with schedule and order. So there's no, like, you know, randomly going out and partying at the nearby dock and dropping LSD with your buddies. That's not a thing. Now, on the flip side, think about the stereotypical idea of a leftist. The thing that pops in my mind immediately is going back to like the 1960s, 1970s, and thinking of like the hippie movement, where you have these people with long hair and beards wearing tie-dye shirts and doing drugs and talking about love and freedom and discussing philosophy and just being really open, living on like a commune with people, and we're living out of a van or something like that. So these are like the two, you know, stereotypes, caricatures, extreme version of like the prototype, the quintessential example of somebody who's conservative and somebody who's on the left. And when I say that the left needs to be more temperamentally conservative, what I mean by that is it's an approach to life that doesn't allow for up-in-the-air, airy-fairy silliness. So there was a great comment I read on one of my videos recently where it said something to the effect of, I'm going to butcher this, but like FDR made the point, oh, if the people on Wall Street are complaining about a 70% top marginal tax rate, okay, let's make it 80. And that's the mindset. That's temperamental conservatism. That's what I mean. So the temperamentally conservative dude, if his son or daughter stays out past curfew, it's, no, you fucked up, now you're grounded, you're punished for a week, or, oh, really? You thought you could come home at 9:15 even though your curfew's 9? How about now we change it so that you have to come home at 8? How you like them apples? It's somebody who, again, is obsessed with schedule and order. Now, me personally, even though I'm on the left, I'm a temperamental conservative. So I love schedule. I like order. I'm a perfectionist, and I like to be in control. I'm certainly not the type to randomly be like, oh, why don't we take a lovely trip to Tahiti and, you know, sit and watch the sunset and stay up all hours of the night. That's not me. And that's, you know, a temperamental approach to life that's not conservative. So if the left starts, because here's the problem with not being a temperamental conservative. You get into a negotiation over something that's a really important priority to the left, like Medicare for all, for example. And the temperamental conservative position is, okay, here's what we're asking for. We want the most single-payer system imaginable. So what that means is we want the UK system, we want tax funds, tax money funding public institutions. That's what we want, that's what we're asking for. Now, because of our system of government, you're probably not going to get exactly what you want because that's the nature of the way the government functions, and there is going to be a negotiation, and you are going to have to meet in the middle. But if you start the negotiation from that hard-line position, then maybe, worst-case scenario, you cave all the way to the idea of, okay, we're passing a federal law mandating that each individual state sets up its own single-payer system. But the point is, by being hard-lined and going into the negotiation saying, no, I'm not fucking budging, this is what we're going to get, and we have the numbers, and we're going to fight for this. If you do that, I think the old saying is, if you shoot for the stars, you might reach the moon, or something like that. I might be butchering that one too. But in other words, aim for the most ambitious possible idea and be hard line and say, no, this is what we're asking for. And then as a result of that, you might end up getting a single payer system, but maybe just a slightly different version of the one you're asking for. So maybe instead of, you know, tax money funding public institutions, maybe you get the type of single-payer system France has, which is tax money funding private institutions. Or maybe you get, like I said before, each individual state mandated to create their own single-payer system. So the problem with the liberal mindset and being a temperamental liberal or a temperamental leftist is because you're so open-minded and you're not a disciplinarian and you're not rules-based and you're not structured, because of that, when you get into a negotiation over something that's your priority, you're very willing to be like, well, you know, hey man, this is how it works. I guess I got to meet you halfway. I want a single-payer system. You're saying you want a, system based on for-profit private health insurance. So I don't know. How about we go? Let's meet in the middle with Obamacare, bro. Let's mandate people buy private insurance, and that's a problem. And I think not only the problem with the left is not only that. Or I should be clear, the problem with the Democratic Party is not only that they're also corrupt, I would say to a lesser degree than the Republicans, but they're still corrupt. The problem is not just that they're corrupt, it's also that they're not temperamentally conservative. And I think that in order to win in politics, you need to be temperamentally conservative. You need to be disciplined. You need to be structured. You need to be orderly. You need to stop at nothing in laying down the law and telling people how it is. So again, to bring it full circle, think of that disciplinarian, conservative, stodgy father. Oh, you broke curfew? That's nice. You're not going out for the next week, and when we're done with that, your curfew just got rolled back an hour. If somebody's a temperamental liberal and their kid breaks curfew, they're like, what? Oh, I didn't even know you had a curfew. I didn't make a curfew for you because I'm all about freedom and love and openness. So we need temperamental conservatism on the left to ever get anything done. So we need to be disciplined, we need to be orderly, we need to be structured, we need to be rules-based, we need to draw hard lines in the sand. And these are not traits that are typically, given to the left. The left, if somebody's on the left or somebody's a liberal, they're viewed as more agreeable and willing to compromise and willing to, hey, let's figure this thing out, man. And our version of leftism needs to be, no, we're going to stop at nothing to get the things that we know are correct, Medicare for all, free college, living wage, ending the wars, New Deal, Green New Deal, so on and so forth. We're going to stop at nothing to get those things. And in service of getting to those ends, we need to change up our approach, honestly, to how we view the world and to how we act in it. So there's a temperamental change that has to happen on an individual level among people on the left before we can actually achieve these goals. And I know it's a weird framing to describe it as the left needs to get more temperamentally conservative because we're using the word conservative, but I think the point is clear, and I think you guys understand what I'm saying, and I honestly think that's the only way that we're going to win is if we end up taking many of the character traits that people on the right have, because if you have those character traits, you're going to be more relentless and you're more likely to win.